We'll look again at the law of conservation of momentum, and we'll start from that idea. So what we were saying in the previous class was, if you look at a system, let's say for example this block, and it has a spring loaded inside it, initial momentum is 0. The spring is somehow made to unwind. So then the spring pushes the two objects apart. Assume for the time being that the frictional forces between the objects and the ground is close to 0. Then you can obviously see that the two objects will start moving in opposite directions. And it seems that from 0 velocity, the object has gained some velocity. Um, how did that happen? When the forces were mainly internal, because the spring would be part of the internal forces. It pushes against one block, but at the same time it pushes against the other block as well. The argument was that maybe the velocities compensate each other, but they may not also, because if you consider, like in this case, that the single object does not break up into equal halves, but a small part and a large part, then the small, because the mass of this part is going to be greater than the mass of this part, so the velocity of this part has to be less than the velocity of this part. So therefore the velocities may not be equal to momentum. But in any case, either way you look at it, you can always say that the momentum of the system before collision, I mean before the separation, should be equal to the momentum after the collision. I mean, I'm saying collision, but in this case, it's a separation, explosion, so to say. And that you can say might be true. And that idea that unless there is an external force that is involved, the momentum of a system cannot change. So while only internal forces are involved, you will find that the sum total of the momenta of the individual particles always remain the same. From a simple case like this, where there are only two parts in which it breaks and they are moving in a linear fashion, to something like an explosion of a bomb, to volcanic eruptions, to the birth of stars. In all of these systems, since the forces that are at play are all internal forces, we can say, whether we can say something else or not, we can always say that the momentum of the system will always remain the same as before. So this is what is called in general as the law of conservation of momentum. And the statement of it is, which is there in the textbook, is, in the absence of an external force, the momentum of a system remains unchanged. Okay, so that is in a general form the law of conservation of momentum. Now, are there any questions or doubts about the conservation of momentum part before we move on to the next thing, which is to examine collisions? So let's examine one more situation just to kind of familiarize ourselves with the whole conservation of momentum thing. And a very sort of standard example that is given is of the cannon and the cannonball. And you'll see why it's a useful thing to look at. So a cannon and a cannonball are in this kind of a situation at rest. So mv in this case, the momentum of the entire system, the cannon and the cannonball together, is the mass of the cannon and the velocity of the cannon plus the mass of the cannonball plus times the velocity of the cannonball. And obviously the whole thing starts off with being 0, right? Because both the cannon and the cannonball are at rest. And then the explosion takes place. So there is some kind of a gunpowder or something like that that blows up, and then you have expanding gases. Then obviously the cannon is expelled from the cannonball is expelled from the cannon. Now, say the cannonball is moving in that direction. Okay. Now, what will happen is the cannon has obviously obtained some velocity, right? some velocity v cannonball, but prime. So this symbol over here is what we call as, sometimes we say dash, sometimes we say prime. Okay, dash or prime. So how you say it is v prime. Okay, and that means that after the blow up, after the collision, after the event. So earlier it was just simply v, now it is v prime. Okay, now from this situation we can build up what actually happens. So the mass of the cannonball obviously remains the same, multiplied by v prime of the cannonball. Okay, so initially was it 0?
Yeah.
Yeah. So now is it 0?
No.
No.
Obviously not. Okay, so this is non-zero. So since the cannonball's momentum is non-zero, what about the rest of the object? What is the rest of the object? The rest of the object will be the cannon. So tell me the equivalent of this. It will be mass of the cannon, sorry, not B, C.
Won't it be minus v or something?
Yes, but just hold on for a moment. Velocity of the cannon prime. Okay.
Yeah.
So what are all the different things you can say about these two momentum? I am deliberately not drawing the cannon over here. Given this information, I will draw the cannon.
Sir, so when the cannon shot forward, I mean the ball shot forward, the cannon thoda sa piche ho gaya hoga na?
Exactly. So that is one thing that is obvious, right? So if the cannon, if the forces that are acting push the cannonball forward, then the cannon has to be pushed backwards, right?
Yeah.
So I draw the cannon roughly something like that. But I'm asking you more in terms of like, tell me what else can you say about these two quantities, okay?
Why is it v prime? Why is it v cannon prime?
No, that is just a way to indicate that this is before and this is after. The prime means after, just to show before and after, that's all. Traditionally, that's how we do it in physics, before and after, prime. Okay, so like somebody said, I think it was Ruhani, the cannon is going to then be pushed backwards. So the cannon's velocity kind of can be showed like that, right? It's going in this direction. Okay, so there is a velocity now for the cannon. It's your VC prime. Anything else you can tell about these two quantities?
Yeah, they need to be equal, like equal and opposite.
They
Equal and
need to
opposite,
be
yeah.
equal and opposite, exactly. Right? Does anybody else see why?
Third law.
So the sum of both of them has to be 0.
Yes,
So
exactly.
that has to be equal and opposite.
Yeah, because and what supports that argument? What do you use to support that argument?
Third law?
Third law is
Law of conservation
Law
of
of conservation of
law of
Momentum.
conservation of momentum. So according to the law of conservation of momentum, what I can say is that mcvc prime plus mcb vcb prime, sorry about so many letters, it's an alphabet soup, but that's how it is.
Is equal to 0, yeah.
We know it is equal to 0. So therefore we can say mcvc prime is equal to negative mcb vcb prime.
Right.
Okay, and since mass cannot be negative, the masses for both objects remain the same and there is no such thing as negative mass, the velocity of c prime and the velocity of cb prime must be in opposite directions, and but of course their values need not be the same, and in fact it would be absurd thing if the values are the same. The cannonball will kill the enemies and the cannon will kill you, so that does not make sense. So therefore, what does it tell you about the masses? How can you compare MC and MCB? And VC prime and VCB prime equal to, greater than, lesser than. You have to state that.
Yeah.
MC is more than
Yeah.
MCB.
Greater than, and we see
MC
one.
has to be, and in this particular case, I will put a double emphasis on that, and I will say that unless you want to die, MC better be way greater than
Yeah.
MCB.
Yeah.
Okay, and because you want your enemies to also get injured in the process,
Yeah.
you better have VCB way greater than VC. Unfortunately, this is
Sir, but
that
you
ends up in destructive results, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. That's the way science is. Yes, what do you want to say, Rohani?
but you don't handle the velocity of this thing, no? I mean, how can you change it?
You don't handle the
Velocity of the cannonball. I mean, it'll just shoot forward and gain velocity on its own. Whereas you can change the mass.
No, you can control it, no, by using the appropriate amount of gunpowder.
Oh, so the gunpowder matters in this? I thought it was just like.
Ah, of course, of course.
The gunpowder only provides the force.
Yeah, the combustion reaction is what provides the force to propel the cannonball forward. So
Yeah, directly proportional.
this traditional sort of an example breaks it down very nicely, because you can take the law of conservation of momentum to be true and make all of these predictions, and obviously all of these have to be true. Okay, so from that we move on to looking at collisions. So the next logical step to take from this is to look at objects that are colliding into one another, what we generally call as collisions, studying collisions. And one of the best things, I mean, we can talk about, somebody suggested, why don't we talk about the cannonball going and hitting a wall of a fortress or something like that, and see that collision. We can examine different situations, cars colliding into one another, a car colliding into a truck hitting a wall, or a truck hitting a haystack, you know. But in general, traditionally, we have been using cue sports as example, and by cue sports I mean billiards, pool, or snooker. Why? Because the snooker balls are very interesting. They are sort of hard ceramic objects, rather dense, and they kind of, when they collide into each other, they make an interesting sound. That's one thing, but they behave in also an interesting manner with regard to collisions, and I will explain that also. But let's take a situation, if you will, of one cue ball. Okay, I started drawing this and the ink ran out in the black one, so I'm shifting it to red. Is stationary. The good thing about these cue balls is that the masses are comparable. Okay, they are almost all the same dimensions, and therefore their masses are to a good degree equal. So the masses of these two balls are M1, M2. This cue ball is moving towards this billiard ball, and it's obviously going to collide into it. It has a velocity v1, while this one being stationary, it has a velocity v2, which is equal to 0. As fate would have it, one cue ball, the M1, collides into M2. Okay. Now we could ask the question, what happens next? Okay, and perhaps more importantly, ask the question, why do you say this is what happens? So, answers please.
I have a question.
Yeah, so the suggestion, one of the suggestions that is, and one of the possibilities is that this situation, and I'll draw this in a little bit sort of miniaturized way, they collide with one another, or maybe I should draw it here so it's easier to compare. They collide with one another, and then both the objects, both the billiard balls, move forward with some velocity. Okay?
Together, sir.
Some velocity. Well, when you say both of them move forward, then I thought that you're saying they move
No,
forward
no, no.
together.
I meant that both of them like go different ways, but both of them move.
Okay, so you are not suggesting this situation, but I'm
I
suggesting, I'm
that them
suggesting. But
together.
that's also possible. They
Yeah.
go together. They hit and then they go together. That's possible. But you are saying that they go forward, but with different speeds. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, so one is here, somehow it got deformed, and the other one is here. And you're saying that this has now, these two have different velocities. This has got like what, v1 prime, and this has got v2 prime.
Hmm.
Even I have a suggestion.
Yeah, what's your suggestion?
M1 goes left and M2 goes right.
Precisely. So that is also a possibility. After the collision, the objects head in different directions. Okay, so v2 prime is in this direction, v1 prime is in this direction. Obviously their masses remain the same.
Yeah.
Okay, so look at the range of possibilities that are there, and of course this is assuming that at that point when the collision does occur, friction is ignored. After that, all of these things might or might not happen. Okay. Now, out of these scenarios, I would say I can actually add one more to this. I just realized it.
Yeah. So all the momentum of the left one is transferred to the right one, and the left one comes to halt.
Exactly, exactly. So I can also have this situation. Anybody who's played billiards or snooker will know this. This is also a possibility. That basically
Yeah.
remains in the same place. So,
Yeah, right.
so
Yeah.
V1 prime becomes 0 and V2 prime becomes some value. In fact, Ishan is saying V1 prime, V2 prime will take the value of V1.
Sir, I thought of it in a different way, but the same thing happens.
Which is this stops.
So the M1, there's a force on M2 by M1, right?
Hmm.
So the reaction of that force will stop M1, and the action will cause M2 to move forward.
Okay, okay.
Sir, I have like a slightly different one, but it's like almost the same.
Yeah.
So basically M1 hits M2, right? And then it transfers its momentum, but then M1 moves a little backwards.
Yeah, so that's this situation. We didn't say how.
Like it hits it and then it moves a little back, you know.
Yeah, that's what. M1 goes backwards. But you're saying V2 doesn't move
But
at all.
So
M2
I think she's trying to say V2 prime is greater than
V1 prime is greater than V2 prime.
no.
M2 moves ahead, but then M1 just like hits it and goes a little back.
Yeah, so that's this position, this situation.
Which one?
This one.
Okay.
Okay. So I think we have put all the different possibilities. Vashish has just reminded us that the time is up. Maybe we can take another 2-3 minutes.
Sir, actually I have one more possibility.
Yeah, tell me.
The one which Ishan just told, you know, that one, third one. Yeah, that's better. Thank you. The C in the C situation C,
Yeah.
V2 prime like is greater than V1 prime, but like V1 prime also moves, but it's like lesser than V2 prime.
That's this situation.
Even prime is 0.
And I think the situation D is not possible.
Situation B is not possible.
D for
Saying
delta.
D. Okay, D.
Hmm.
If
First thing
Yeah, and the reason why it is not possible?
It's because it's like the reaction happened, V2 moved, M2 moved, but then after some time V1 starts, M1 starts moving. How is that possible?
No, that's not this thing. It's saying that after it's collided, both of them separate and then go at different velocities.
It's like this, it comes and hits and then it goes like this. But actually it is possible, but it is not possible under these conditions. Why? Because I'm saying if M1 is equal to M2, right? Then Ishan is right, D is not possible. If M1 is equal to M2, then A is also not possible. But we have to figure out why, and why the reason will be obtained by looking at the law of conservation of momentum. Okay, so I think it's good that we stated this as a problem. We will give ourselves some time to think, and when we come back in the next class, we will try to see which situation is possible, which situations occur, what are the conditions under which they will occur, and what are the situations that cannot happen, and what are the physical factors, that is in terms of the laws, which prevent those situations from occurring. So we leave with that question. When we come back in the next class, we will reframe it and we will examine it again. Okay, so that's all we have time for today. I'd just like to take half a minute to talk a little bit about a YouTube channel that I'm sure will be useful for students who are also doing physics at this level. This is a channel called Naikiran. It's done by my friend and colleague, Dr. Alok Tripathi. Hindi lessons to do with ICSE, approach to things like letter writing, essay writing, Chitra Varnan, which of course is part also of what you do in CBSE and otherwise. He also reads out interesting stories from folklore and also from the Indian epics. I'm giving the link to his channel. Please visit the channel and enjoy the content that he puts in. Good luck with that.